On our radar, the City of Johannesburg, before we get to COVID-19, the City of Johannesburg has rejected Eskom's current load shedding, saying it's considering legal action against the power utility. Eskom implemented stage 2 load shedding at 9 last night, saying it had to replenish emergency generation reserves for the week ahead. The City of Johannesburg said this morning that they had notified Eskom that it had secured additional power supply from a privately owned Calvin power station and that it qualified for an exemption from stage 1 and 2 load shedding. Stage 2 load shedding is scheduled to last until 5 tomorrow morning. So, electricity issues. How does it play in terms of local government issues? Let's get some analysis. And we are joined via Zoom by political analyst Levy Ndou. Sir, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Good morning, Blaine. Good morning to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me today.
So let's talk about it. Service delivery issues, bread and butter issues, important material, electricity, a burning issue, no doubt, in South Africa. How does it factor in the calculus of those who are looking to support a certain political party or a candidate?
Thank you. It plays a big role. When we talk about local governance or local government, people talk about the basic services that ordinary citizens are supposed to receive. And high on the list, it would be water, it will be electricity, it will be refuse removal, it will be all other things. And when citizens don't get these basics, they actually run to the politicians or to political parties. When there is no electricity, citizens get frustrated, leaders of political parties and government get frustrated, but citizens who are even more frustrated don't want to listen to excuses. All they want to hear is that their service provider is actually providing services. Now that politicians are busy with the campaigns for local government, and they also hear that Eskom is going to be implementing load shedding, it becomes a big nightmare for politicians like those that are in the City of Johannesburg, who have been answering questions relating to power supply for quite some time. Political leaders and ordinary citizens are aware that there is a lot of financial investment that has been made towards Eskom in order for Eskom to be able to improve on its capacity to deliver. And instead of getting better services, what they actually get on a regular basis are excuses and load shedding. And I think what the City of Johannesburg is doing now is to say to the citizens, we are no longer part of the problem. We have done all we could to assist Eskom to deliver. When we have got problems, be aware that the City of Johannesburg is not part of the problem and the problem rests with Eskom. And I think that is the message that they want to deliver now that they're heading towards elections, so that the electorate does not get angry with them, but they should get angry with Eskom.
Yeah, let's explore that for a bit, since you bring it up. It's your job, no doubt, to test the temperature of views, test the pulse of the nation, the electorate. When they hear a statement coming from the City of Johannesburg saying that it rejects Eskom's latest schedule, load shedding from 9 on Saturday, the 23rd of October, 2021. This is after the city recently secured additional power supply capacity of 220 megawatts from the privately owned Calvin power station that qualifies it for an exemption from stage 1 and 2 load shedding. How does the electorate interpret that?
Well, I think it will actually depend on how the electorate interpret this. But I think there is also a deliberate attempt on the part of the City of Johannesburg to make sure that citizens are actually aware of the steps that the City of Johannesburg has actually taken in order to be seen to be assisting Eskom in delivering on a mandate. Hence, in their statement, they talk about the steps that they've taken that will prevent them from experiencing load shedding. And I think what they are also trying to say is that citizens of Johannesburg, as the City of Johannesburg, these are the steps that we've actually taken, but still, after having made this kind of effort, we still get frustrations from Eskom. But also at the same time, apart from the current situation that is being faced by Eskom regarding load shedding, there are other factors that are at play here. I see an element of negligence on the part of Eskom and also on the part of law enforcement agencies in South Africa. If Eskom has been able to deal with illegal connections, and maybe through the law enforcement agencies in the Republic of South Africa, and also being able to collect revenue from those who are not actually paying the money, which can still be done through Eskom or through the different municipalities. Maybe Eskom will not be in this kind of a situation today. And in most instances, what we hear is that there is an aging infrastructure, there are equipments that are not being properly serviced. And I think what politicians are saying now is that on our part, we've actually done our best, and the problem still lies with Eskom. And I think this then becomes a challenge to Eskom to say, what is it that Eskom is trying to do in order to improve on providing the service that they are mandated to provide, and not have citizens being angry with them, because indeed citizens are frustrated and angry with the service that they receive from Eskom.
No doubt, sir, you've been monitoring what has been said on the campaign trail. A lot has been said. It's definitely important for political parties to tick all the boxes on the campaign trail, the service delivery issues, the job creation, basic standard repertoire on the campaign trail. But what do you think is still missing in the messaging by political parties, by independent candidates?
I think if you look at the messages of different political parties, all you do, you just remove the emblems. If you are reading, you remove the emblems of political parties. And what you're actually going to see is that they always talk about same things. They talk about the fight against corruption. They talk about providing basic services to the people. They talk about building capacity to different municipalities to be able to deliver. What I see missing, and I think this should be a challenge to all political parties, is that most political parties don't say anything about citizens having to pay for services. And instead of making citizens aware that there are certain services that they need to pay for, what we hear are political parties that are actually saying that we are going to deliver on this and this and that. And it is only fewer and smaller political parties who say we are not going to make promises, we're actually going to make sure that things are actually done properly. One of the challenges that different state entities are worried about is the fact that there seem to be very little financial resources going towards these entities. And that is a potential to affect service delivery. And I think it is time for politicians to be honest with voters and make them aware that some of the services that are being rendered, they need to pay for these services so that government is then able to provide the best of those services.
The current strategy that is being used by various political parties, various independent candidates, from a stylistic point of view, from a substance point of view, how does the electorate view this in terms of the optics of it, and then getting back to basics and about getting things done at a pace? What's your feeling with regards to what influences or what holds sway over the electorate?
Well, I think it's important to note that as our democracy is growing and moving towards maturity, we are actually going to observe a lot of other characters that are part and parcel of a democratic growth. And that is why we're observing for the first time in many, many years, and the number that has increased that relates to independent candidates. And I think if you have a number of independent candidates growing within a constituency or in a ward that was in the past dominated by a political party, it actually sends a message to a political party to say, maybe you have not been sending the right candidates to represent us to do the work properly. Or maybe you have not been able to identify the challenges that are facing the ward, and we have been able to have the right people to provide those services. But it's also important to note that when you have got independent candidates and in an area that is dominated by political parties, you then require those independents, if they succeed to sit in council, to work extra hours and get extra energy, because they will then be expected to sit in a number of committees and to deal with the different issues affecting the municipality. And in some instances, when votes are supposed to be taken, these people might not always be able to make it, or they must then have to side with other political parties. And that might then become a disadvantage. But the advantage with independence is that they would then also be able to raise their issues without any form of being scared, of being monitored, or of being given a line of march by leaders of different political parties. And they'll express their own views as they are, so that those that are working with them should understand exactly what their communities are actually saying. So either way, this other side would have its own advantages and its own disadvantages. But we are not in control of that, because the ultimate decision maker is the voter, who then has to decide who must then go and sit at the council.
And just before I let you go, Mr. Ndou, and maybe it's a good segue into, before I give the viewers the latest with regards to the coronavirus, does it matter at a local government level with regards to the issue of the pandemic, the messaging coming from the politicians, the messaging coming from government? Does it play a huge factor when we head off to the local government elections?
Well, I think it's important that we take the issue of the pandemic as a national crisis. And I think it is time also that we don't only have to leave the challenge of the pandemic only to few individuals. What I think we need to do is that from all levels of government and all sectors of society in South Africa and outside, we should actually be able to work together in ensuring that we are able to fight the pandemic, and indeed we are able to defeat it. What government has actually promised, fortunately, it has actually been able to happen. And I'm happy that government spoke about awareness, government spoke about the fight against the pandemic and measures that we are supposed to follow. And a number of citizens, you could observe, are actually observing COVID-19 protocols and ensuring that they don't participate in events that will actually spread the virus further. And in this instance, a caring leader would also be able to send the message forward to everybody and make an awareness about the pandemic and its own dangers. And I think it is the responsibility beyond politicians of all of us to ensure that we fight the pandemic and actually go back to our normal lives.
It is about how do you muster up courage and maintain strength in a crisis? Big question. Always instructive, sir, Mr. Ndou. Value added, as always. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Be well.
You're always welcome. Thank you so much.
All right. Levy Ndou is a political analyst. No doubt we'll be hearing from him much more during elections week. Well, we're heading up. It's the final push, isn't it? Just 7 days left in terms of November 1st, local government elections, 2021 municipal elections. We'll be getting you various perspectives from various analysts in terms of the state of play on the ground, the realities on the ground versus what the commitments from the politicians, those running for office, the promises as well. Right here on SABC News. You heard Mr. Ndou speaking about the issue of COVID-19. The number of COVID-19 vaccines administered over weekends remains relatively low.